What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about the Life is Strange franchise in 2024. Are we going to get anything? Is this another year of silence, or maybe this is the year that something gets announced? It was 2021 that True Colors, I believe, got announced that springtime and then released that fall. So it has been approaching 3 years since the announcement of that game. Obviously, these games can take a little while to make. And so let's start off by just saying, well, where would it be from, right? Who would make it? Well, I think it's Deck 9 to cut the, have a very short answer. Don't Nod, continues to, I think, be on the sideline when it comes to Life is Strange. I don't think they want anything to do with it, at least right now. Maybe down the line, I could see it happen where they get Life is Strange back and they want to make a Life is Strange game. But they just, announced and they're making 6-7 games. But that Bloom and Rage, right? Lost Records, Bloom and Rage, that game is very Life is Strange inspired. You have many people that worked on Life is Strange 1 and 2 that are heading that game up. So, if we don't get Life is Strange, anything, an announcement or, nothing, in 2024, that game is supposed to come out in, probably the tail end of 2024. We might get a Life is Strange-esque game by the end of the year. So that is something to look forward to. I am very excited for it. It very much even just visually resembles Life is Strange. Looks pretty cool. We'll see if they can bounce back. Don't Nod, notoriously, at least I always say, notoriously up and down. They have Jusant, amazing game, but for every that, they have a Twin Mirror, which is okay. Life is Strange 2, obviously, I'm not a fan of. They're all over the place. But what about Life is Strange themselves? Well, like I said, Deck 9, I think, has got to be the one. Now, the question is, I don't know the structure of Deck 9. That makes the situation a little bit more muddy, because they did Life is Strange True Colors, they did the Life is Strange remastered collection, and then they did the Expanse with Telltale. But there's always been this confusion, at least there's been confusion from me, as to well, was it 50-50? I think as it came out, it sounded more and more like Deck 9 really was the pioneering force of making it. Telltale was helping / publishing it. And that could be wrong, and you can definitely let me know in the comments. And the reason why that's important, right, is, okay, well, how much of the full team, at Deck 9, how much was working on The Expanse? Was it everybody? Was it just some of them because they weren't, they weren't making a full game? They were getting help from another studio also making it. You don't really know, right? It's never been in paper written down, that 50% of the game was made from one, 50% from the other. And that would, mess with things, right? Because that just came out. That came out this past summer, and, you had your 5 episodes and ended. Now, by the way, another personal opinion, not a big fan of The Expanse, at all. So I'd much prefer them to, whoever's fault that was, I'd like them to kind of turn it around. When it comes to Deck 9, as we've said many, many times, I think they've proven themselves with Life is Strange. I always liked Before the Storm. That's probably a controversial opinion. I think True Colors is an excellent game and an excellent Life is Strange game. I think they understand it. And if you ever got these two back, the ones behind me, I think they'd be the ones to do it as well. So I do have trust in them specifically for Life is Strange. I think they know what they're doing, and I think they've more than proven themselves there. When True Colors was announced, and I always go back to this because until it's proven otherwise, I do want to believe it. Right before True Colors was announced, there was that rumor or leak or whatever you want to call it that went up online that very much described what True Colors was. It talked about Alex, it talked about her powers with emotion and everything. I mean, it did a really, it was a legitimate leak. And in that leak, they also talked about Life is Strange. I think they called it 4 at the time. And they talked about Max and Chloe, that game would, and I think they said that, that game had just kind of started. So there's a lot of I thinks there. I understand that. But you could say, well, they just made it up, or maybe that second part wasn't attached to the first part. Regardless, it all came from, at least originally, it all came from the same spot. They nailed it with what they knew about True Colors. I've always wanted to believe, specifically Max, right? Max is an amazing character. Max, in a lot of ways, I think, was Life is Strange, and maybe even still is. I would love to see Max Caulfield come back. And I think one day it happens. I really do. We're still in that era of, bringing back old characters, right? In movies or television and in games and stuff, right? So I do think it happens. But that's what I would like the next one to be. Because here's another thing. I think Life is Strange is totally going to continue. Square Enix has largely eliminated, a lot of these more Western titles, and you have them selling rights off, right? You can look at Tomb Raider and all that stuff. A lot of those are gone. But Life is Strange has always remained. So Life is Strange really is one of the only non-Japanese centric things that Square Enix cares about. I don't think it's going anywhere. I think it probably has tapered off. Like, it probably hasn't been doing as well as the earlier ones did. Life is Strange 1 historically did extremely well, right? Sold many, many millions of copies. I don't think any of them have really been able to replicate that. So maybe that's another reason why you go back to Max, by the way. You know, it's just kind of egging that on, right? Bringing that in. So could 2024 be the time that you get an announcement? 50-50. I mean, that is a cop-out answer, right? You have a 50% chance they announce it, 50% chance they don't. I really think it does matter, and the answer would lie in, again, where did the Expanse kind of put the team, right? Was there always part of the team working on Life is Strange? Because as we saw, like, history actually is very important in this case. Life is Strange True Colors was announced within the same year that it came out, right? So this is not, and I think, you know, Before the Storm was similar, maybe even Xbox's E3, and then I think it came out just a few months later. But from what I remember, they're not ones to announce a game and then release it 3-4 years later, which is different than the industry, right? In the industry, you had these big games that get announced and they come out 4 or 5 years later. You forget about them, you know, in that middle part of it, and then they, you know, kind of come back to life. Life is Strange is not like that historically. You announce it kind of when it's ready. So is it ready to come out in 24? Well, it has only been 3 years since True Colors. You just had the Expanse. If they were working on that and that took up most of the team, then the answer is probably no. But I do think over the next couple of years, like 2025, 2026, I do think it's very possible that happens. I don't think Life is Strange is going away. I think it's got to come from Deck 9. I don't think it's going to come from Don't Nod. And then you just got to give them time to announce it in the same year that it would release. So I'll say, I guess my prediction as of right now on January 2nd, the answer is no. I would predict you're not going to get anything Life is Strange. But again, Don't Nod's game, pretty similar to it. But maybe 2025. I think that's definitely possible. Unless we find out, or it's explained to me in the comments or whatever, that, you know, the Expanse did not take all of Deck 9. Because then you look at it and say, okay, well, they could have been working on a Life is Strange game for 2-3 years now, and that's a pretty good amount of time, you know, to get something kind of put together. Maybe not enough time to get it out. You probably need a little bit more, maybe 4 or so years, but you're definitely getting closer. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.